What's the deal, y'all? We're Trapper tapping in TNN Trap News Network. We back in the same, like cook cracking the stain here at TNN Trap News Network. It's that good news you can use. It's that good knowledge you ain't finna get nobody's college, big dog. Hit the like, hit the comment, hit the good subscribe button. For more of this good news you can use, more of this good knowledge, you ain't finna get nobody's college, big dog. Tap in with that tap in and make sure you are, in fact, tapped in with that good tap in. You feel me? Hit that notification bell, hit all, say tapped in for the latest and the greatest everything we got going on here at TNN Trap News Network. It's that news you can use. It's that knowledge you ain't finna get nobody's college, big dog. Tap in with that tap in to make sure you are, in fact, tapped in with that good tap in. You feel me? Hit that like, comment, subscribe button. Hit that like, comment, subscribe button. Hit that like, the comment, the good subscribe button. You dig me? Tap in with that if you ain't tapped in with that. We finna jump into this content, man, but before we do, make sure that you hit that Instagram, TRAPNEWS, NETWORX, Trap News Network. Get into that if you ain't got into that. And make sure you get into we're trying to get some correspondence, my bad. Get into the running to be a Trap News Network correspondent. This is potentially paid position. Hit me up on Instagram, TRAPNEWS, NETWORX, Trap News Network. We are looking for a potentially paid Trap News Network correspondent. So make sure y'all get into that if you ain't got into that, man. A lot of y'all are in the live. Appreciate y'all for coming in. Yes, this will be the topic. But before we get into that, man, yes, this will be the topic. What we got going on. Whack 100 just admitted to something zesty in jail to beat the case. That happened. But before we get into that, man, we finna slide over to Real Tunes. Shout out to Real Tunes TV. Big shout out to Real Tunes TV. If you ain't gave him a like, comment, subscribe, make sure you do. I just did. Show him some love. Melvin Farmer explains the 83GANGSTAs and the Hoover Crips relationships. Let's get into this relationship. Let's get into content. Let's go.
I wanted to ask you something different now. I know you said that you kind of been exiled or alienated from what's going on with the current generation. But I'm curious to know...
Well, I'm not exiled from the generation. I hang with them all on the street. I just don't look at the internet because I know everybody on there. Like I said before, I wouldn't be friends with nobody because everybody else got beef. I don't have no problem with nobody. I'm going to do what I do without the internet.
Regardless.
So I don't look at it because a lot of it is entertainment, false propaganda, guys knowing, and I'm knowing both parties. So that keeps me neutral out the way.
The A-Trays, during this war, like with the 60s, you have a situation where, like, the Hoovers adopt the name Gangsta. I'm wondering,
the Hoovers adopted the name Gangsta.
Well, the Hoover Gangsta Crip.
No, well, they allies. They ain't adopted Hoover Crips or Hoover Crips. Gangsta Crips or Gangsta Crips. Rollin 60s or Rollin. Those are all different factions.
But they're Hoover Gangsters.
Allies.
Right.
No, they're allies. It's just like when you say Hoover Gangster. That don't go hand in hand. That's just a saying. But it doesn't just go automatically, you Hoover and we gangsters, and it go like that. You got other places where you might have 6 stars, 5 stars, claiming Crip went in there up under their banner, you can't gang bang. So you got a lot of mixes and matches when it come to that. So you'll never hear, Hoover does not have attached to it, they just allies. No more difference in moving and grooving.
Right.
So it's the same thing, but they didn't adopt nobody's name. They're just so quick.
And for those of you guys who don't know, you guys aren't watching within the Los Angeles area. If you're from LA, you already know this. The Los Angeles gangs, for the most part, are based off the territory off streets. So Hoover is a street. 83rd is a street. You feel me? You have the Hoovers whose sections run through the 80s because, you know, we got 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street. People are from Rollin 40s because they might have grown up on 42nd Street. People are from Rollin 30s because they might have grew up on 33rd Street. People are from Rollin 20s because they might have grew up on 21st Street, so forth and so on. You have the Hoovers who their neighborhood runs through the A-Tray-Gangstas neighborhood. So I guess rather than two factions beef with each other and be at odds with each other, they figured out how to, you know, put words over whoopties and have put words over whoopties and have solidarity and unity within their community. So that's a beautiful thing to see.
Associates, they practice whatever they do together. They're allies as opposed to the other ones that don't get along with them.
Okay, so the name, like, you know, because in some factions it's criminal, in some factions it's gangster.
Well, now you're saying criminal. That's different. You got criminals That's just no more different than a CCO, a Blue Note, a Vanguard. It's still an offset of the Crips. It's still ending with Crip. Hoover criminal, they might be independent or something like that. But it's so way out. You got 300, 400 different gangs now. I mean, what more you gonna get out of this? It's you know, it really looks stupid. Riding a dead horse down a dark canyon, dying over a city you never went to. You ain't a
riding a dead horse down a dark canyon, ready to die for a city. Hold on, let me say one more time.
What more you gonna get out of this? It's you know, it really looks stupid. Riding a dead horse down a dark canyon, dying over a city you never went to. You ain't a threat to nobody but each other. I don't hear nobody talking about killing no white. I don't hear nobody talking about killing no police. I don't hear them do nothing but talking shit on the internet about each other. Game goofy.
Here's my final question, and with that last statement, you kind of, summed it up as goofy. But you're somebody who originated it. My question to you is, how do you stop the goofiness? Like, even if you look at the Big U case, right? A lot of what is transpiring, or at least what's coming out.
Well, they look at it as a badge of honor.
A lot of what's coming out is coming from podcasts. Mm-hmm. So now it's like gangbanging has become a part of the podcast culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Cult, not a culture. This is a cult. There's a big difference. This is not a culture. This is a cult where propaganda, like Hitler controlled the Jews. These are Adolf Twitlers. This is not a culture. This is a cult. Push, look, subscribe, pay. Those are things that sound like dictatorship, where they dictating what you do.
Hey, you know what's crazy? Gangbanging definitely is a cult. Gangbanging definitely. What's the deal, chat? What's the deal, y'all? Who all here? Bobo, 10th Ave, what's the deal? Eddie Boy, snake ass Eddie Boy is sick. What's the deal, bro? What's the deal?
And then you sit up in here and you just listen to somebody tell stories that rehash already. Oh, let's talk about what they're doing now. But that's not inciting. It's called black exploitation. This is nothing new. But soon as you talk about a Jew or a white man or anybody, they take your ass to jail or you get your ass locked up. But you up here laughing like a mule chewing on barbed wire about each other. Ain't nothing cool about that. You got people that got parents, and you got a lot of people that ain't gonna take this shit when they get close enough to where they can touch your ass. That's just how it go. And then other people want to get involved in shit where somebody ran their mouth, stay out their lane, like you told me earlier when we talk about people staying in their lane.
Right.
People got a bad tendency when they get in shit to somebody to say, we got a problem. That ain't how they go. You and that person got a problem.
Right.
Yeah, people do got that bad. When they get into one individual, oh, we. Nah, nigga, you got a problem. That's for individuals who are too afraid to stand on their own. They jump into the we. Niggas turn into a French class real quick because they can't stand on business.
That's how it should be. But why do we even got a problem?
Right.
What's the problem? They're not part of the solution because most of them can't go around. They can't walk the street. They the problem. Elected officials the problem. You got too many people giving up game goofy shit that is not factual, and the truth never could coexist with a lie. So what I look like sitting up on a couch trying to compete against a lie. Let your actions speak on what you're doing, and let's match up. I've written laws. I've spoken at the Rayburn building, and I say I because I'm an introvert. Unless we doing something, it's going to be I or me, period.
That's real. And he's saying that he can stand on his own feet. He don't gotta go with the crowd. He don't gotta be swayed with the crowd. He don't gotta do none of that kind of stuff. I am going to stand on my principalities as I see fit. I don't gotta run with the crowd. I don't gotta run with the group. I can be independent and think how I think and feel how I feel. A lot of niggas don't. What's up, Jason? A lot of niggas don't got that kind of security in themselves.
Period. I'm an introvert. I don't need no company. I did 30-some years in jail. Never had a sleepless night at all. Because I'm built to do that. A lot of us is. Well, a lot of them, you see them get down, the first thing they do is turn, snitch, cry, and do everything else. That ain't how they go. You do your time, you do your crime. I hear him talk about my son. My son got 500 and some years I made him cut everybody else loose. It was 5 people, but they don't say that. Google it. But his ass took 200, 500 years where you gonna ride this beef and you gonna let everybody else go. That's how it go. But now this generation here, if one get out, oh, he's snitching. That ain't how that should go. If one of us could take the case and get the less time, in fact, whoever can get the less time, that's who gonna take the case. Why everybody need to go to jail when one can go? But this generation here, they get punished for what we did in the past. They victimized through drugs. Gangbanging ain't did no more different. Nothing did more damage than drugs in America.
That's true. That's true. Drugs broke up entire families. And who knows where our lives would be right now if the generations ahead of us wouldn't have been dismantled and taken apart by drugs. Imagine if we would have had those community leaders in our neighborhoods. Imagine if we would have had those fathers, those grandfathers, those uncles, those brothers, those G homies, those big cousins, and all that kind of stuff. Instead, they lost their life to either addiction or the money being made as a root of everybody else's addiction, and now they incarcerated, which is still the same as not being alive, for real.
The mafia don't let you sell it because they know what the drugs do in the long run. So they talk about this gang banging. They got gangs all over America. Been having them, gonna always have them. The only thing is they breaking the law and doing criminal acts. That's what make them a street gang. Other than that, you could be 10 people with bikes. You a gang, a bicycle gang. The only thing separates you between the ages of 10 to 24, that's the era of when you consider the gang 3 or more, is you can do a criminal act. And also, let's talk about the Rico charges in Atlanta where everybody like they got a Rico Act. The state Rico Act in Georgia, that's big. It only carried 20 years. I got 83 years. The federal case, these men carry life without parole or the death penalty. And in federal prison, when you get a life sentence, that means you die in prison. You're not coming home. So when you
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, what's the deal?
Talk and put these.
And that's they phones and shit going off, y'all. That's not me. My devices are silenced. That's they devices in this video.
Characters, exaggerations to where it looked all time heroic. At the end of the day, it might have had Rico Act in Georgia, but it only carried 20 years. I got 83 years, and mine's carried 20, and it's not bragging, but that's what I'm going to show you the difference between state Rico Act. That's when you're doing petty street crimes, drug dealing, murder, that. But when you get to this, you got organized crime where there's a chain of command, there's a structure. That's why they're in federal court and not in state Rico. See the difference? You them on a whole nother different level. And when you're in Georgia, in the trial that they went through, I did 5 years in Georgia. And shout out to my boy Brian Nichols, still on death row, that should have been exonerated.
Hey, if y'all don't know about the Brian Nichols story, man, sociopath for sure, stalker. Words are hard. If y'all don't know about the Brian Nichols story, I suggest y'all. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna give y'all that. The Brian Nichols story is crazy. Bro got to cracking in a courtroom and got to knocking on stuff. Imagine you go to court, right? And they tell you they finna charge you with a license. In your mind, you think they finna charge you with a life sentence. So you get to knocking on a whole courthouse. You knock at the judge. You knock at the you the reason why in Georgia they're not allowed to have guns in the courtroom, because you get to knocking on everybody. You're in handcuffs. You're military trained. You get the police officer, the bailiff's gun. You get to knocking on everything. Man, you go on a run. You doing all this whoopty bam and blah blah. You get caught only to come to find out your ass is finna get charged with innocence, or get let out innocent, whatever. They was finna plead your ass not guilty, and you couldn't just wait for them niggas to say not guilty, and you got to get cracking on everything in the courtroom. So yeah, man, free Brian Nichols is that nigga right there, boy, man. I heard a lot about him when I was locked up in jail. That shit was crazy. Nigga, they was finna let you go. You wasn't sure about it, so you got cracking on everything.
After all those times going to court, and they need to bring that up. It's hard when a white woman say you raped him in Georgia and you get 3 hung juries, and that's what happened to my man, and then he ended up killing everybody in the courtroom. But that was my partner in Jackson. So I got fond memories of Georgia, but I also know the law down there very, very well.
It get tricky, man. We up out here to the next one. Like, comment, subscribe for the more of this good news you can use. It's now you ain't thinking nobody's college free. I've been on your tweets free.